We have lived on this narrowboat for a fair few years, and for us, we feel boat life is incredible, but there are some compromises that you have to make. If you are considering an alternative lifestyle living on the water, these are our 10 biggest reasons you should not live on a boat. If you can cope with these, boat life is probably right for you. So let's head inside and Jack is going to go through the first one.
It's going to sound like an obvious one, but one of the things you need to consider is space. Narrowboats are not big areas. If I do that, I can touch both of the walls at the same time. Essentially, living on a narrowboat is like being in one long corridor. So our boat is 57 foot by 6 foot 10. It's not a huge area. If you're coming from a house, that means having to downsize and minimize your possessions. Also, if you live with your partner, sometimes it can feel like you're living on top of each other. We've kept our space quite open plan, so we do everything in here. We eat, we relax, we work from here. And you know, being honest, sometimes it can get a bit much. Other boats do have different layouts where the kitchen is in a separate room to the lounge and the bedroom, but no matter what your layout is, it is still small space living.
And this is the question which boaters get asked all of the time: what kind of toilet do you have? And the toilet for me is probably the biggest compromise when it comes to living on a narrowboat. There are 3 different kinds of toilets on the boat. So you get a cassette toilet, which I think you get in most camper vans, where you essentially have a small pot underneath the toilet which you have to take to a marina to empty down a big sink. Then you get a pump out toilet, which is where you have a massive holding tank, and every couple of weeks you take your boat to the marina where they pump it out, essentially using a big vacuum style thing. And then the third type of toilet is what we have, and that is a compost loo. So it's essentially a separated toilet where you have to compost your own waste in compost bins that we carry with us as we go. So no matter what toilet you have, they are not out of sight, out of mind. They all need emptying by you. So it's quite a big compromise when it comes to living on board. And on that note, I will see you in a second.
Things tend to take longer when you live on a boat. For example, let's talk about heating. So we have a wood burner, and that means having to go and buy firewood. So we go to this place where we can get these refillable buckets of firewood logs, but obviously we have to drive to that location. Then once we've got them, we've got to unload them from the car, lug them all the way down the towpath to the boat. Now sometimes your car might be parked quite far away from where your mooring spot is. Once you've got the things back to your boat, you then have to chop them up into nice little neat logs that you can put in the wood burner. Getting that fired up, it usually takes about half an hour to an hour until the boat starts feeling really nice and toasty. So you can see how that process just takes so much longer than clunking on the central heating in your home. And it feels like this with so many different things, you know, even simple stuff like boiling the kettle. We have to do that on the gas hob rather than just turning the electric kettle on, and it takes so much longer.
We don't have a washing machine on board, which means that when we go to friends and families, they are kind enough to let us turn up with at least one full load of dirty laundry. Some boats do have washing machines on, but they use a lot of power. So doing your laundry, if you're happy to use a laundrette or have friends and family nearby that you can go to, then it's not a massive deal. But one thing which might be a bigger compromise for you is washing yourself. So we don't have hot water on demand. We have to run our engine to get hot water, or we heat it up in a pan on top of the wood burning stove or on top of the hob. So that means we can't just shower whenever we feel like we would like one. So it's not really daily showers for us when we live on a narrowboat. So washing yourself and washing your clothes can be a bit of a compromise.
Privacy is something you've also got to be aware of. Your home is moored against the towpath, which is a footpath, so people can walk past and have a good old stare in. Especially when you're around city centres, when it's really busy. What we tend to do is keep the blinds closed on the towpath side, but then you've got to think about the canal side, especially people like kayakers and stand-up paddleboarders. They have a tendency of being on the perfect eye level for when we're fresh out of the shower.
For us, this lifestyle is cheaper than living on land. We are going to record a video about boat costs and how much it costs us to live this lifestyle, but we haven't done that yet, so when it is, it will pop up at the top. So there are a lot of unplanned for costs which you need to be aware of. So things like the engine going wrong. Over the years, we have had quite a few problems. Some things we can fix ourselves, but some things we have to pay for a specialist to come and look at and fix, and that can be quite expensive. There are also planned for costs, so blacking is an example of this. Blacking is when you have to have your boat taken out of the water every 2 years, and it's painted like a thick black paint which protects the steel from rusting when it's in the water for so long. That is expensive, but it's something that you're aware of. But when you couple that with all of the unplanned costs, it can get quite expensive. So it's good to put a bit of money aside just so that you're kind of prepared for when things can and do sadly go wrong.
It's been really sunny today, but obviously it's not always like this. Rainy days are something you have to deal with. They just make boat life a little bit more tough. The towpath gets really soggy, inside the boat then gets really dirty. We don't have a porch on this boat. You can get canopies for your well deck, but we don't have one, which means when you get muddy boots, muddy shoes, you end up bringing that mud into the boat with you. And this thing also gets these paws really mucky and muddy as well, which means footprints on the sofa, little paw prints all over the floor. You end up just sweeping out the boat all the time in the winter months. Don't get me wrong, like summer in the boat is absolutely gorgeous, but the rain is something you've got to be prepared to deal with.
Not having a dress has its challenges. We use friends and family's homes to get posts sent to, but obviously you don't live there, so you can't just pick that up whenever you want. Then we use Amazon lockers and click and collect as places to get items that we order online delivered to, which are a bit of a lifesaver. But when it comes to more official things like registering for a doctor, that is when not having a permanent address gets a bit tricky. So you can't be turned away for not having an address, although they do sometimes try. So you kind of have to fight for your right a bit more. So something to be aware of is not having a permanent address. It does make life a bit trickier.
People don't tend to talk about this one so much, and I hope it's not just us that suffer from it, but there is definitely a bit of a boaty smell. Now it's winter, so we're using our wood burner almost 24/7. We're also running our engine a lot more to keep our batteries charged up, and those two create an interesting fragrance. You've got the wood smoke smell and also the slight oily dieselness that you get from the engine, and that fragrance can get into your clothes. Now you don't really notice it until you enter normal society or you stay at other people's houses, but then you definitely do sort of pick up on that boaty smell, which means you need to burn plenty of incense. So smooth.
The last thing we're going to talk about is electricity. So we are off grid. That means that we get most of our electricity through our solar panels, and sometimes we have to run our engine to be able to top up our batteries. We do not have an endless supply of electricity. We have to be really aware of what we're plugging in and drawing out of our batteries. That means I can't use things like a hairdryer or a straighteners because they take too much power and our inverter can't handle that. It depends on your setup, but generally speaking, you've got to be really, really aware of what you're using. When we go to a cafe, we will take the opportunity to plug in most devices that we own to try and get the power in there rather than using up our batteries. And there is one more negative thing that we've kind of come to terms with, we get asked a lot about as boaters, and we will tell you about that together.
Oh. It's really hard. I sat on the really hard bar. Yeah, bonus compromise. Is that a word?
Bonus compromise.
Bonus thing to know about.
That everybody asks us as non-boaters.
Spiders. You do get a lot of them in autumn, and sometimes they can be quite big, but you just learn to live with them.
The problem that they have is that they just hang from the ceiling, so you catch them at the corner of your eye hanging. But I came onto the boat hating spiders, and now I've learned to live with them. So I think it's a compromise that you can kind of get okay with.
But look, if that doesn't put you off, and the other 10 things that we've mentioned haven't put you off, then maybe boat life is for you. We really love this lifestyle, it really suits us, and if you have been thinking about it, why not check out the tour video that we have done of our narrowboat Flora.
We are always happy to answer any questions on our Instagram. We are at thistiny.life, so if you've got any more boat questions, just send us a message and we'll happily get back to you. And if you've enjoyed this video and want to see more boat insights, then please do hit like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Bye! Right, let's take you out.